Susie, my theory and my strong belief is that if you have two separate bank accounts, your marriage will potentially be doomed from the start.
I think I agree with that. How's it going, Santi? Another week?
Another week. Yeah. How's everything with you?
Good. I think one of the, I guess a little highlight this week was that I got invited to, this year is the 75th anniversary of the Miss USA pageant. And they're doing some sort of celebration around this year's Miss USA pageant. So they've invited like all the former competition winners, the former queens. They're calling us legacy queens.
Oh, wow. That's pretty amazing. So you get to go to an event?
Yeah, the actual pageant, that gets televised, new Miss USA being crowned, like that whole thing. So we get tickets, we get a +1. So I'll probably bring Matt with me. And there's just all this fun. There's going to be like a photo shoot. They sent us a whole PDF. It sounds like a lot of fun. And it's just such a cool, it's so funny about having been Miss USA and that whole thing is that I didn't grow up doing pageants, but it's a big part of our culture, right? As Latinos, like watching Miss Universe and Miss America, Miss USA, like that was our Super Bowl. We would watch that every single year. My family, uncles, aunts, cousins would come over. And I grew up watching it, but never in a million years that I think I would be in one, or I just didn't think I was that person, that girl, right? Like to me in my head, that was a type of girl that did that. And I didn't feel like I was that type of girl. So, now, there's like, it's the 75th anniversary. So there's only been 74 women who have.
That's really cool.
That's really cool, right? When you think about it. And I'm like, gosh, like that's crazy that I'm one of those women, like it's still like blows my mind, even though it happened, back in 2003. But yeah, it's just, it's an honor to be a part of it. And it's like this really special, like sisterhood. And, I'm friends with a lot of former Miss USAs. So it's just been really cool to.
But it still happened though. It's funny. I remember when you won. I can't recall if I was watching it live, but I saw it. I saw when you were crowned.
Yeah.
And one thing I've always wanted to ask you was in that moment, in those moments before you won, what were you thinking? And did you think you were going to win?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. So I was the second Miss Massachusetts USA to win Miss USA. 5 years before that, I entered my first pageant, which was the teen version of the Miss Massachusetts USA pageant. And I won. And that same night, the girl that won Miss Massachusetts USA is Shanae Jebbia. And Shanae, so Shanae was the Miss winner. I was the teen winner. Shanae went on to win Miss USA that year. She got asked the same final question. Sorry, I got asked the same final question that Shanae got asked. And to me, that was a sign. Like as soon, and by the way, I prepared as best as I could for every part of the competition, but that final question, like that moment of answering something with like 30 seconds or whatever, however long they give you before a little bell goes off and your time is up, like the pressure of that on live television scared me to death, right? Wow. And that was what I was most nervous about. And I just remember going into it thinking, because sometimes you watch those things and you see the girls, right? It's a 2-hour telecast. So by the time that final, the top 5 is answering their final question and they choose a winner, a lot of times I don't even care. Like if my favorite girl throughout the whole night, like on the show, like is in the top 5, I want her to win. And I don't care if she messes up that final question or not, right? Because there's a lot of pressure. Like I always got that. And sometimes the girl that answers the best in the top 5 isn't the one that wins for that reason, right? Because the judges are already like seeing the girl on stage, right? There's something about a certain girl that they really like, and that's their winner no matter what, And I was just like praying that like if I messed up my final question, that they liked me anyway, and they're gonna vote for me anyway. But then when I got asked that final question, and in my brain, all I could think of was, Shanae Jebbia got asked this question 5 years ago and she won. To me, I feel like it was like a little sign from God and the universe, letting me know, like, listen, just answer the question and you're going to be fine. Like, this is yours, And so I just had a moment of like pooping my pants a little bit because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to win this thing. This is happening. And then also like, I got to answer this question. Like so many things were going through my brain. It was like a crazy moment in life, that moment. So
Yeah. It's funny because we went to college together and I had known you had done some pageants before. And there was another girl on campus too that did some pageants as well. And she was involved in the teen stuff too. Do you remember what her name was?
I think it was, I think her name was Jill. She was like a Miss Mass, like a teen winner.
Yeah.
I think her name was Blonde.
Funny story, and I don't think I imagined this, but I think I made out with her in one of the foam dances. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that I did.
Oh my gosh.
But I also don't know if that was the same person, but I think it was. Now, this poor girl is probably like, no, this guy's crazy. But I remember being like, yo, I made out with one of the Miss Teen girls and thinking it was like this huge thing. But yeah.
That's funny.
Anyways.
Yeah, I think her name was Jill. I think she was a freshman. Damn, Santi. She was probably a freshman when we were like graduating. But I think
it could have been. I don't know. I'm pretty certain that my memory's good. I don't make stuff up like this. And usually when I have a story like this, it traces back. So I don't know. But I don't even know how I got there. But that's awesome that you're going to this event.
75th anniversary, yes, of Miss USA. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
I know.
Congrats again. It's a really cool fact about you. That's pretty impressive, and you must be very, very proud of that because that's something that's awesome.
I am. It was really cool. Yeah, I worked really hard, I should say. Like I worked really hard to prepare for it, and I certainly went into it feeling like I deserved to win, right? And it just because I worked so hard for it, and I don't know. It was like one of those things that I felt really good and comfortable about, with the exception of that final question of that moment, because I worked so hard and prepared for it. And I just thought, I know there's a tremendous amount of luck that goes into that moment too, winning that. Because there's so many, it's like the girl that was the first runner up was from Alabama, had a sweet little Southern accent and blonde hair, blue eyes, and then there was me, the only girl that had curly hair. You know what I mean? It's like, it's apples and oranges. Like we're not competing against each other. So you're not comparing the girls. You're just kind of like picking the one you think is, as a judge anyway, you're just picking the one that maybe, I don't know, has a little spark, has something about her that you really like, and then you just circle her name, I guess. And I was just really fortunate and lucky that night, the things were in my favor. But anyway, enough about me and Miss USA. What's going on with you? What's the latest?
No, nothing really crazy. We just booked another family vacation. The last 2 years we've gone to Europe. We're going to continue this theme. We're going to go to Spain and we're going to go back to Italy. But I always tell people, listen, I know I have limited time with my kids in the sense of they're going to go to college. Their lives are going to take their own path. So I'm trying to take full advantage of traveling with them because this is traveling with my family is one of my favorite things. And we've been fortunate enough to go overseas and we're going to continue that theme. So I always love the fact when the flights are booked, then it becomes real and we start the process of booking the hotels and figuring out what we're going to do. But we just did that. And again, can't wait. I'm so excited. And it's like an end of the school year type trip vacation that we're going to go on. So I'm excited for that. But
that's fun.
that was a thing for this week.
That's so cool. So you guys are going to Spain. What part of Spain are you going to?
Madrid, Barcelona.
Oh, cool. I love that. And then you'll take a train because it's so close to Italy?
No, we'll fly over because the train to Italy, it's actually kind of long.
Right. You're going to have to.
But we'll take it's like a 2-hour flight to get from Barcelona to Venice. So, and then we'll do that.
That's awesome.
So it'll be like a week and a half.
Yeah. The kids are excited.
The kids are excited. Yeah. I think the first time we went, they didn't know what to expect and they experienced another country. And I think they were fine with it. The following year, they were like, oh my God, we can't wait. We had so much fun. Now they know what to expect. They know what it's going to be like. So now they're looking forward to it. Yeah. And culturally, I think for them, seeing other cultures have made them realize how big the world is and just the amount of possibilities that are out there for people. I think for me, I'm from Salem, Mass, and there was never a sense of feeling like the world was big. I feel like Salem was a small, diverse community that really wasn't diverse in many ways, but my family's always gave me the opportunity to believe that there was a bigger world out there. But I didn't really feel that until I went to Athens, Greece in 2004 for the Olympics. I got sent there for work. It was this amazing experience. And I still remember going over there and being like, oh my God, this world is so big. And there are so many possibilities. If a person like me is now in Athens, Greece, broadcasting back here, reporting on the Olympics, I'm like, the possibilities are endless. I think for my kids, that's what I want them to experience and to realize, and also how different people out there culturally and just across the board, how great this world is.
Yeah, yeah, that's such an important thing to teach kids. Like, and you know what I've noticed too is that like kids who have the opportunity to travel, it, because so many kids can't, especially nowadays, right? Everything is so expensive, and like, I mean, your flights alone are probably a small fortune.
Yeah,
Never
because
mind.
we fly with 6 people. Yes.
Yeah, it's you guys are a big family, and but for kids who have the opportunity to travel, they're more confident. They are comfortable like in like moving around in the world, right? They might take risks that a kid that hasn't had that opportunity because of the lack of confidence. I just think it's so good for kids to see it and like, see how people live in different places. I think it makes them more grateful when they come home too.
Yeah, and I think this goes even for like Americans too, because sometimes I've experienced this thing of like talking to people here and they're like, well, what's it like in other countries? I'm like, oh, it's amazing. Yeah, but do they speak English? I'm like, yeah, I think for the most people speak it as a second language. But at the end of the day, like I never feel out of place because I'm American or I speak like English. But there's a part about it where I feel like there are some Americans that believe other parts of the world aren't as good in the sense of like when they go over, they still try to act as Americans. I think that's a turnoff. But if you go there with a sense of like acclimating to a culture, immersing yourself in the country and getting to know the country, the people from other parts of the world are accepting to that. Yeah. And I feel like going and experiencing that part of it is really eye-opening for a lot of Americans who have never experienced that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
That's really cool. Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's exciting. That's a fun trip. Be a fun trip.
Yeah. Marriage and money. What are your thoughts off the bat?
Off the bat, as a woman, I have to say that, traditionally, this is like a role. The family finances is the role that like the man takes on, and I think. Not that that's a mistake, but I just think it's super important for women to get on board with that, right? And like learn what's going on. But also, I am from the very beginning, maybe it's because Matt and I our relationship started before we became professionals, right? We were in college, we didn't have careers or anything like that. So we were really able to build like our financial situation together. Like it's not like either one of us had a financial situation before, during college, right? So it's like, it's not until you actually start making money that you start figuring out like 401k, like your retirement plan, right? Investing, like all of that stuff. So we did it together, and for us, it worked really well.
Yeah.
But I have friends that like keep things separate, like to have separate accounts. And Matt and I have everything in one, like it's just one, all of our account. We both have access to our accounts. We share all of our accounts. When we want something, we know if we can afford it, and it's not, we're not being crazy, frivolous, whatever. If it's a big, like we just do it, right? But if it's a big ticket item, then, we discuss all of that stuff. But I think it's another place kind of similar to sex maybe, where sometimes people, there's like a thing, like you don't talk about it, you keep it separate or whatever. And I just think it's so important to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of my biggest beliefs is that you should not have separate bank accounts. I think so often I have heard this thing of like, my money and his money, where I'm like, if you guys are on the same page and you're married, why is it separate? Shouldn't it be our money? And then there's this whole thing of like, if you have two separate bank accounts, is one person secretly spending, or are they withholding what they're spending money on? And then I think it just goes down this path of consistent separation, where if you're married, shouldn't it be you, one team as a whole, and everybody shares from the pot? But this is also coming from somebody who from the very beginning, just like you and Matt, have built their financial partnership together before we didn't have anything. And for many years, my wife made a lot more than I did for a lot of years. And when I was starting out, man, I remember when I first got onto radio, I was making $200 a week, starting at the absolute bottom. And my wife, because my wife had a good job, we were able to buy a house when we first got married in 2005. Actually, we bought it in 2005. We did all these renovations, but only because my wife had a great job. And this stayed consistent for a while, because in our industry, and at least from my perspective, where I was starting off, you don't really make a lot of money in the beginning. So like there was always this imbalance of income, but she never made me feel like I wasn't worthy of spending as a team or building wealth together or doing all these things together, because we never put who earned more or what one had more than the other in the very front of everything. It was always a partnership, and her money and my money was our money, which meant this was our life and our marriage. So from the beginning, I've always felt like against the sense of like two bank accounts, separate bank accounts and all this stuff, because it just adds a natural divide in the middle of the marriage.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. But what about three bank accounts? Like I have friends who, but again, they got together in their 30s. So they already had, kind of like nest eggs that they were building like separately. So, I mean, what they did, this particular couple that I'm thinking about, I remember them talking like over dinner and talking about how they have their joint bank account, but they also have separate bank accounts for just like spending. Like you want a pair of shoes, you want to go get massages and facials, whatever, like for stuff like that, like, and I just remember thinking, well, I guess so, but still at the same time, I was like, you don't really need a separate account for that. You can still have it in the same account. I don't know. I wonder what other people think about this.
I think that at its foundation, whichever path you go on, I think like being on the same page with your partner on what your financial goals are and where you guys stand is super important, because, and this is another thing, I've seen situations where one person is secretly spending, next thing you know, they're in this awful financial situation. And then you find out that your partner is buying all these crazy things, but had kept it a secret. That doesn't endorse a partnership. That causes a divide. As long as you're on the same page with whatever it is, and whether it's three bank accounts or separate or one, as long as you're on the same page, then I think it can work for whatever your situation is. But then that also goes back to, you got to communicate, and communicating about finances in a lot of marriages is a very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. Especially in the beginning, like, especially, when you go into like prenup worlds, I had another friend who like reached out to me. She was engaged, and before she got married, her fiance was like, my family wants you to sign a prenup. And, we're at lunch and she's like, do you have a lawyer that I can? And I'm like, yeah, I have a lawyer. I'm like, I don't know if he does prenups, but you're welcome to talk about it. I'm sure he has a friend, right? If he doesn't do it. But, there's those type of situations where maybe you're marrying, someone's marrying somebody wealthy or whose family is wealthy. And, sometimes you get into that kind of a situation where that could be really awkward, I think.
It can.
I can't even imagine. Thankfully, Matt and I were poor.
Yeah, right. Well,
we had nothing.
Us too.
Yeah, it's like we were college students. And neither one of our families, were wealthy. So it's not like we were inheriting anything.
I got to imagine with the prenup thing too, what happens is the family starts having conversation, and it starts having an influence on the marriage. And then what happens, I feel like with money sometimes, it becomes a power dynamic too. If one partner is making more or one family is worth more money, the power dynamic might get adjusted. And sometimes that's not a good thing for any marriage, because you do always want to feel like you're on the same page as your partner. But I think there are a lot of people out there that use how much money they make to add more to their power.
Yeah, which I hate. Like, I don't like
hate
that.
it too.
I think that that's one of the reasons that having, it's a good, if you truly don't want money to like come between you and your marriage, I think pooling it all in one bank account helps to eliminate that. Because then when you look at the finances, it's like, this is our finances, you know, like, and sure, you know what you're making, but when you have that mentality and you're coming from that place of, this is what we're building together and this is ours together, and you're talking about it and you're having open communication, it eliminates that. There's no power. Like, you're giving up, you're relinquishing that power, you know? And, you know, for a long time, like right after when I was done being Miss USA, I saved all my money from that year, right? Because I didn't make a salary that year as Miss USA, and I saved it. I paid off my mom's car. I remember she had her car that she was still paying off. I did pay her car off, and then I just saved the rest because I didn't know how quickly I was going to land a job afterwards. And when I got my MTV job, like a few months, like 6 or so months after I was done being Miss USA, you know, I moved Matt across the country twice. I moved him to LA with me after I was done being Miss USA. And then when I got the job at MTV, the hosting job, I had to move back to New York City. So Matt had just found a job in like PR. And at that time, he was making a steady income, but I didn't. All I had were the savings from being Miss USA. And then I got the MTV job, and then he had to quit his job so that he can move back to New York City with me. But you know, he hated his job in PR, and because money and who made more, like there was never any importance placed on that. You know, he really hated his job, and he was like, I don't know what I want to do, really. You know, I've always felt like I was lucky because I knew that I wanted to work in entertainment, but Matt was, you know, I think that's like what a very small percentage of young people who like know exactly what they want to do when they get older. But most don't, you know, and Matt certainly fell in that category, and he just didn't know like what he was passionate about. And when we moved to New York, I was like, I'm making enough money for us to live off of. Like, you don't feel pressure to find a job. Take this time. Like, maybe you want to go to grad school, like while we're in New York City, maybe, I don't know, you want to explore like different types of jobs or some sort of like internships or whatever. Like, take this time to really figure out what you want to do, because we're in a lucky position where my income alone is supporting us, right? And in the future, the tables might turn, you know, or who knows. But in the beginning, you know, similar to you and Joanne, like I made more money than he did. And, you know, sometimes as a man, like he would have moments of like, it just doesn't feel good. And I'm like, forget it. Like, who cares? Like, why? You know, like that just doesn't matter. So I'm like, to me, I'm like, focus, take this opportunity right now. I'm under contract. I have a steady income, and take this opportunity. It's a rare opportunity where both, you know, folks don't have to work. So if you like, you're still going to work because he's still going to figure things out. And he ended up starting a company with a friend, and, you know, that was, it wasn't great. It was a web design company. And very quickly, you know, when like Wix and Squarespace, like companies like that started popping up, people were just creating their websites, you know, that way. So he had to pivot again. And that's when, like, you know, writing, he really realized that he loved films. He was always a gifted writer. You know, when we were at Endicott, I remember we were like hanging out in my dorm, like watching a movie, and he like, all of a sudden, like, he was freaking out. He's like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta go. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I have a 10-page paper due tomorrow. And I totally forgot about it. He's like, I started it forever ago. I have like 2 pages written. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, you're going to get an F. Like, go do your work. He did it. He handed it in the next day and he got an A. Like, he was always a gifted writer, right? So he definitely found his calling there. But yeah, and I think now he makes more than me, you know? So it just, I don't know, it just flops around, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't, as long as you are taking care of business.
Yes.
And it very much is. There's so many, I mean, I don't know if you see it this way now, Santi, like I really do feel like marriage is so much more than just love or sex or kids. I feel like there is a business to
Yeah.
it, right? You're
Yeah.
investing, you're like you're buying house, you're buying real homes together. Like there is definitely a business aspect
There definitely
to
is. And
marriage.
that's why, like, even going back to it again, being on the same page with everything is so important.
Yeah.
It's funny when you talk about making money and who makes more. I feel like even when it comes to paying the bills or worrying about the financing part, like I am not good at that, but my wife is also in the finance world. So for her, it's a natural thing that she does and a natural thing that she understands. But I have complete trust in her
Awesome.
abilities that I don't even worry about it. I'll ask I'll ask specific questions about certain things, but I know at the end of the day, like things are going to get paid, things are going to get taken care of. We're in the right situation with whether it's banking or investing,
Hmm.
because of what she has always done for her career, but the role that she took on. And I think I balance out other things when I put more focusing on it. But these are all
Yeah.
conversations we've had over the last 20 years where we've gotten to this point where there's not even like I'm not intruding. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to manage that part of our marriage. And again, just to your point, like a business, we run our marriage like a business. She takes care of certain things, I take care of certain things, but we have the trust enough that this business is moving forward.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great way to like kind of divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Do you ever sit down and like do you guys sit down and do you have spreadsheets and like do you do that whole thing?
She has the spreadsheet. We'll sit down and she'll show me things. Most recently, we just went through all of our spending, all of the accounts and all of the subscriptions I have to certain things that I've forgotten about. So we laid it all out, and then we're going through what we can cut out because professionally, I am leaving my job in a couple of weeks to do this to start this business.
Hmm.
So we're going through and cutting some of the financing, but also just being very smart about it. So that's the
Right.
latest example of us having a spreadsheet. But she's always involved in the spreadsheets, and I'm always seeing things. And I'm more of I need to see this thing on paper and how everything lays out. And she's good at creating these spreadsheets so I can understand it. So
Yep.
yeah, she's great at that, and I think it just works for us.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
But real quick though, that being said, if anything were ever to happen to her, I would have to learn how to pay the mortgage, pay the bills, do all these things because I don't know how to do it. I've never done it. I'm confident that I'd figure it out, but again, she's always done it. That I'd be completely lost. Like I don't know where the mortgage is. I have a rough idea of what our mortgage is monthly, but I don't know the exact dollar amount. I have a rough idea of what our car costs, but I don't
Yeah.
really know. I don't
Right.
know where those car notes are. So
I mean,
yeah,
a lot of that stuff gets done like it's auto, right? Like
yeah,
it's automated. But I
yeah.
hear
But
you. I have
what's the website? I have no idea. And like, I'm not joking. So I have no idea, but
Oh my gosh.
it
Okay.
works for us.
So here's the thing. Okay, my
Yeah.
sister is in like a similar boat. She's like, my husband does everything, and I don't even want to know about it. And I'm like, God forbid, like, with people who travel a lot, Matt and I travel all the time. And like we have it set up so that like, our finance guy who handles kind of pretty much everything, like is under his, under one roof. They just have to call this one guy if something
Mm.
ever happens to Matt and I, and we pass like together, which would be the dream, right? To like not live a day
Yeah.
without our love of our lives. But it's like you just have to, it sounds morbid, but you have to even have those things in place, right? So Joanne needs to create some sort of document for you just in case something
Yeah.
happens to her, then you have a doc with like, password protected and you can only get into it and it has all the websites, all the passwords, all of
Yeah.
the things so you don't get screwed. Cause that is I've heard of like people like passing away and then it's like there's probate and there's like all like money gets stuck in
Well,
things.
because of that, though, we do have a will that's very clear cut to like how everything breaks down if one of us
Yeah.
were to pass and who gets all. So I think
Hmm.
And even that's a good example. You know how many people I've come across that won't even have that conversation with their partner? I feel like when it comes to financing,
Crazy.
that's a major thing. And I'm like, listen, you guys need to be on board on who's taking care of the kids and gets all the money if something were
Yeah.
to happen. And like the fact that people don't want to have that conversation is beyond me.
I know. I've never understood why, because it's all, well, it's, I mean, I get it. People don't
It's
like to talk
morbid,
about death.
fine.
Yeah, they don't like to talk about death. But I just think I agree. It's super important. Talk about all the things that might be an issue later in life, especially like in a younger, and by younger relationship, meaning new relationship, right? It doesn't have to be if you're in your 20s. I mean, it could be a new relationship in your 30s. Like if you've been, single or whatever, and now you're engaged and you're about to get married. Like it baffles me that people will get married and they haven't talked about kids.
Oh yeah.
They haven't talked about their finances. And then it's like you get married and this person has like $100,000 of debt. Like that's
Yeah.
something you should have known about beforehand, right?
Yep.
And I don't know why people won't talk about that stuff.
Because it's
ahead of time.
uncomfortable. That is exactly why.
I guess
Because it's
so.
awkward. Because it might take away the fantasy of the person that they think is in front of them. Like,
That's a good point.
credit score is a big thing with me. If like I were to date a girl now and she had a terrible credit score, I'd be like, oh my God, really? Like, but it's also coming from where I came from, where credit score was such a big thing for us, and my wife was always on top of it. But I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, so even if I had to date now, that'd be a question I would have to at least come across at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
Like having drinks at the bar and Santi's
So
like,
what's your credit score?
What's your credit score, baby? Like, tell
Oh,
me,
really?
share. You're like, oh,
I'm done.
yeah. Santi's
So-
out if it's below 700.
But when it comes to financing, though, that's exactly it. The uncomfortable conversations people don't want to have, and the vulnerability of sometimes saying how much you make. You don't want anybody to think that you make less money than what it's perceived, right? So
Yeah.
I think even at its foundation, this conversation starts off at a negative.
Yes, absolutely. But you know what? It brings up a good thought in my brain about vulnerability and how important that is as well in a relationship. And like, because you have to be vulnerable. Like if this person has a lot of money, like they make a lot of money based on the car they drive or, or just their job, right? And you don't make as much, actually sitting down and talking about those numbers might be very humbling,
Yes.
but that's okay. It's like, you have to just push through that and, have those tougher conversations, that are uncomfortable. I mean, I have a friend that got divorced a couple of years ago that, by the way, we should totally have on the podcast at some point.
Yes.
One of the things that truly ended, like things weren't going so great, but then she found out that he had secretly all these like credit cards and like debt that, it was insane. And, so not only like the secrets, but it was like the financial aspect of what he was doing was, the straw that broke the camel's back. It was like, it's such an important part of a relationship, of like being on this journey together, and if you love each other and trust each other, like and the trust comes with communication too. It's like, I feel like we're a broken record. It's like we keep talking about, communication, because it's super important. It's super important.
Like you need to communicate the fact that you have all these secret credit cards and you're just spending. Because at some point it's going to fall on somebody's lap.
100%. The truth always comes out, right? And like, she came across all this like boxes of things, like stuff, like he had like a spending issue, and a lot of people do, and that's okay. And if you have one, just admit to it and have the conversation and work through it together. It's just wild. It's wild to me, especially when because you're in this relationship, there are kids involved as well. And it just,
and then I'm sure she probably felt like, I don't know this person that I've been with. Like, who is this person? All of a sudden, like I find out all this thing. Yeah. So it's again, and like, I don't know what the reasoning was for not sharing that this was happening with him. But at the same time, like this still goes back to it. We just mentioned it. Have uncomfortable, awkward conversations and communications with your partner. It's that simple.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was shame, right? Like if you have the reason why, right? Like, because if you have any sort of issue that you know you have to work on and you don't want to talk about it, the reason you don't want to talk about it is because there's some sort of shame there for
That's
whatever
true.
reason. And you know, but again, it's like once you open up the floodgates of communication and that becomes the norm in the relationship, then you're able to talk about even all of the things that you might label as shameful,
Yeah.
you know. Man, all right. Well, yeah, that's a moral of the story, guys. You all have to just talk, talk, talk. Talk about
Yeah.
all of the monies situations because it's just so important. So, yeah, let's get into our high lows.
Oh
What was
yeah.
give me yours, Santi.
The high from this week has been the fact that, like, it's gonna sound cheesy, and I know this is a marriage podcast, but my wife has supported me so well through my career change, and it's a scary thing to go out on your own to do this risky thing. But she has supported me so well and incredibly through this entire journey that it has made my leap of faith that much easier. And again, this week we had a great moment where I was like, listen, a little bit fearful of the change, the what ifs, but she was like, listen, you've been doing this. I got your back. If anything happens, we're going to figure it out. So I just love the fact that she's always been there for me. And I try to remind her that I appreciate it so much more. It's like so much now. And yeah, so that is the high, just that we've talked about it and that we're here. So that's my high from the week. What about yourself?
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. Man, because feeling supported by that person that you love is like the
Yeah.
best thing on the planet. And my high this week is very similar. It's about support as well. I flew across the country 4 times in the last month to support Matt because I've mentioned before our maybe unhealthy I don't know what you call it, like dependence or codependence. You know, it's really like the thought of being apart from each other, even if it's like a work trip. It sucks. Like we hate it. So he had to go on this work trip for 2 weeks. It ended up being 3 weeks. So I'm like, I'm just gonna grab my laptop and I'll do work wherever you are, like with you, you know? And so yeah, I just wanted to, you know, because we both, the feeling is mutual. So it's just great. Like after a long day on set, he gets back to our Airbnb and we can snuggle and be together. And, you know, some days we couldn't even have dinner together because he was like on set that long. But yeah, so that was my high as a wifey, like just, you know, supporting my husband. He certainly has flown a lot in the past for me. So, just so we can be together, you know?
I see.
Yeah. We don't like to
What,
be apart.
what about the low?
Oh my gosh, my low was something really stupid. He put something in the dishwasher in a way that I didn't like. Like, it's not how I would have put
Yeah.
this item. And I like snapped, I snapped at him.
It doesn't go in that way.
I was like,
Part goes up.
like, you're so stupid. What are you doing? No, I didn't call him stupid, but like, you know, it's like I snapped at him and he's like, he literally was like, your rigidity is insanity. And he, you know, what did he say? He said, because I was like, he's like, you're so particular about all, and it's true. I'm a control freak. I always have been, always. And it's like one of my life lessons, like things that I need to work on because it's exhausting. Like for me, when I think about it, you know, so I'm like working on letting things go, you know, like I put things in the dishwasher a certain way. He puts them in there in a different way. But you know what, Suze? It's all going to get washed at the end of the
Yeah.
day. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. And in the moment though, you know, my craziness, like, it's like, like, it's so wild how that just, you know what I mean? Like our reactions to things,
Yeah.
like, so I need to pump the brakes on that. And yeah, that was like a little shameful moment for me. I was like, did you just snap at your husband for putting something the wrong way in the dishwasher? I was like, I'm so sorry. Like when he stopped and like pointed it out, he's like, this is why it's so hard for me to do anything. He's like, you want to micromanage even the way I put things in the dishwasher. And I was like, oh, you're right.
Oh,
I
that's
am like,
classic. That's so funny.
oh, terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, what about you?
I need to help out around the house a lot more. You got to imagine that living in a house with 6 people, the amount of laundry that we have, and some of these kids upstairs will take a towel, use it once and throw it in the pile. So by the end of the week, there's this mountain of laundry and it's just so massive. And sometimes I walk by it and I ignore it, where what I should be doing is grabbing a load, putting it in and helping out. I don't help out enough when it comes to the laundry, but I'm always one that says, well, just ask me and I'll do it. I need to get to the point where I just see it and do it and not wait for her to ask me. But I will say, I walked by the other day, I saw that thing and I just ignored it. I'm like, I can't do that right now. And I just walked right over. I got my socks from the laundry room and walked right out. I need to help out more. And I realized that was a low point. And the fact that I just ignored it and saw it, that was not the greatest version of me.
Okay. Yeah. That's good. It's good that, you know what? I recently read a wife that was saying that she's like, my husband's fine doing it if I ask him to do the thing. Yeah. Like if I ask him to do it, he's fine with it. But she's like, it's exhausting thinking of all the things that have to get done, right?
Yes.
Like as a woman sometimes, and we just want you to do it. You know what I mean? Like, so we don't want you to, we don't want to be hounding you. Because you know what it is too, Santi? Like, I don't know if Joanne feels this way, but I will say that, women have, I've heard it growing up. Like, you don't want to be like the woman is always the nag. Like you never hear of a naggy husband, right? Like you always hear, it's like a female thing for some reason and something that we got labeled with. And I am like so afraid. Like I don't ever want to be a wife that nags her husband. But if you're not even thinking about it, or if you're stepping over the laundry and ignoring it, and you know what I mean? It's just something on the list that,
even at its foundation, I know that if I help out with the laundry without her asking me, I will get more lights out sex. But for some reason, I still avoid it.
Wow.
But
you're acknowledging.
I'm acknowledging, hopefully working towards a solution. So let us pray that we can figure this out.
That's a good one, though. That's a really good one. And it's important and it's great. And it's, you know what? It's never too late. Like you're just realizing this now, 25 years in.
Well, at least I realized it, right?
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. It's, better late than never. I love that. We're learning and sharing. Love it so much. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. Till next time, Susie and Santi here. You guys make sure you follow us on social media. We're at Spouseology Pod everywhere. Send us your questions via DM. And subscribe, review, leave us a review. We haven't asked for reviews. I'm humbly asking for a review. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening and watching.